The preparation phase, I involved various colleagues within the organisation, from the lead of our leadership lead, equality and diversity lead, our director of people and organisation.
We spoke to service leads that were going to be filling in the tool. We wanted them to understand why we were doing it, the longer term plan for this should lead into action planning and ultimately a strategy. We also involved my team, so people business partners, because ultimately we will have a role in putting some of this into practice. To think about where would the outputs from the tool be used, so which meetings would you take them to, how do you socialise the outputs with people. So by preparing people to use the tool that way, we already started talking about what do we mean by talent, how we're going to use it. That starts people to think about when they're filling in the tool itself, they've got an understanding in the back of their head about the future for the action plan.
I could, looking at the questions, have quite easily sat there and answered it. From my point of view, for me, I wanted to see how it felt on the ground. So those individuals that work clinically, non-clinically, but very operationally, I wanted to get an understanding of their viewpoint. And for some of the areas, I use specialist leads, so equality, diversity, inclusion. Got some comments from colleagues who lead on that element. And I did talk to our HR director as well.
So my experience of using the paper-based tool was positive overall. It was a really helpful conversation aid, and I was able to scribble some responses and use it as prompts. I didn't necessarily use all of the questions because actually the conversation didn't necessarily flow that way, but I would use it again as a good tool. I got a wide variety of responses, some responses that I wasn't expecting. It was a helpful way of having a conversation and using the tool as an aid for the conversation, and it made me challenge some of my assumptions that I'd made prior to starting the process.
I think the main thing that worked well is, as I said, it gave us an opportunity to start talking about this. Otherwise there's a tendency to just focus on the tool as an end in itself, but as we know, it's one step of many. So it was useful to help people to not worry about filling in the questionnaire, because there's no wrong answer. If the diagnostic reveals that we're not where we thought we were with talent, that's okay. So don't worry about that. Don't focus too much on the numbers. So that enabled people to see this as a step in a process rather than a particular item in itself, like a survey would be. So that helped.
I think it sort of forces you to include other people, because there is so much, 150 of those indicators, and to do that as one person is quite a challenge. So it sort of forces you down a route to be able to involve other people and get different people's perspectives. I found some of the assumptions I may have made as a lead in some of those areas were dispelled, quite surprisingly. So it gave us, as an organisation, a different way of viewing talent management than perhaps we would have done had that been completed as individuals or even within our own department.
With preparation next time, I would definitely take more detail of the evidence that the particular experts were giving us.
And I'd involve more people, and I'd get more people to complete it. One of the things we talked about is the extent to which somebody else would recognise that picture painted in the report. So I think I would like to have involved more stakeholder groups. Again, this helps to set up the engagement piece when we get around to action planning. It also helps, it would have helped to give us a bit of a cross-reference across maybe different professional groups or different levels in the organisation. So to what extent is that real understanding of talent prevalent throughout the organisation, or is it at a certain level or within a certain job category where people understand it?